Let's begin with a question. What does it actually mean to be happy? For the majority of people, happiness has other individuals connected to it. They think, I'll be happy when I meet the proper mate. Or, I'll be happy when I gain more buddies, more popularity, more adoration. But here's the truth that most of the world doesn't want to hear. If your happiness depends on others, you'll never truly be free. Think about it. If your joy is tied to someone else's presence, their mood, or their approval, what happens when they leave? What happens when they disappoint you? What happens when they change? Your happiness disappears with them, and that's why so many people fear being alone. Not because solitude is painful, but because they've never learned how to find joy from within. But here is the life-altering truth. You can be happy alone, not just content, not just managing, but truly happy, fulfilled, and alive, whether or not someone else is in the room with you. And it is not just motivational speech. Science verifies it. Psychologists have discovered that solitude, when done by choice, cuts stress, enhances creativity, raises self-knowledge, and enables you to develop emotional resilience. As a matter of fact, research conducted at the University of Virginia found that individuals who spend deliberate time alone become stronger in resilience and more certain about their life decisions. So why should we care? Because if you desire long-term happiness, you must cease to outsource your joy to others. You must take it back. You must learn to create it, and when you do that, when you become a master of being happy by yourself, something interesting occurs. You become magnetic. Suddenly, relationships are better, not because you require them, but because you select them. Your presence shifts, not desperate, not needy, but whole, complete, and powerful. Take a moment. Ask yourself, when was the last time perhaps you were reading, walking in the woods, cooking, or listening to music? Take note of how these moments arose not from others, but from the simple things that touched your soul. That is evidence. Happiness lies within you. Happiness doesn't pursue you. It is not given to you by someone else. It is not found in a relationship, in a friendship. Happiness is a skill, a muscle, something you can develop. And that foundation of the skill is in learning to be content in your own company. Happiness is within you already. You just need to figure out how to let it out. And one of the greatest keys to letting happiness out is solitude. The world does not honor solitude. The world honors connection, sociality, popularity, being constantly engaged. If you spend too much time alone, society figures that you must be doing something wrong. But chosen solitude is not emptiness. Solitude is power. Solitude provides you with the opportunity to disconnect from noise, from other individuals' expectations, from the unlimited demands of the world, and reconnect with yourself. Most individuals live their entire lives fleeing silence. They turn the television on for white noise, swipe mindlessly through their phones, occupy every nook and cranny of their calendar, just to not have to sit alone with themselves. Why? Because silence can be awkward. It makes you confront yourself. But here's the reality. Silence is where you encounter the true you. When you remove the voices of others, society, friends, critics, even family, you are left with one, your own. And that one is usually the one you've tuned out the most. That is why solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is connection to self. It is room to breathe, to think, to heal, to grow. Writers, inventors, artists, leaders, So many of them withdrew from the world to discover their greatest insights. Newton developed gravity in a year of solitude. Buddha spent years meditating alone beneath the Bodhi tree. Steve Jobs used to talk about walking alone to get clarity. Solitude is not punishment. It is a gift, a lab for discovering yourself, a temple where you listen for whispers of your soul. So the next time you are alone, change your attitude. Don't think, "Why am I lonely?" Rather ask, "What is loneliness teaching me at this moment?" And when you do that, solitude will shift from being a prison to freedom. Let's discuss how to create a happy relationship with yourself. Here is the reality. The most crucial relationship you will have in your whole life is not with your parents, your spouse, your friends, or even your kids. It is your relationship with yourself. All of the other relationships in your life stem from this one. If you do not love yourself, you will always look for love elsewhere. If you do not trust yourself, you will always distrust others. If you do not cherish yourself, you will always accept less. So how do you create this relationship? You begin in the same way you would with anybody else, with attention, care, and time. Take care of yourself on your own terms, not out. Do what you like to do, not because someone else likes it, but because it gives you joy. Be kind to yourself, not judgmental. Listen to your mind without criticism. Support yourself in the same way you'd support a friend. This isn't selfishness. This is self-respect. And when you practice it, your life changes. You no longer feel desperate to be validated. You no longer are afraid of rejection because you do not reject yourself. You no longer hold on to poisonous people because you have learned to like being with yourself. Here is a reflection for you. Think of your inner self as if someone were sitting across from you. How would you treat this person? Would you neglect them, criticize them, or would you give them kindness, support, and love? Whatever you would give that person, you must give to yourself. When you do this, alone is not emptiness. It is not solitude. It is friendship. It is bonding with the individual you will share the rest of your life with, yourself. Let's dive deeper. One of the largest reasons individuals fear solitude is due to their quiet past experiences, regret, or insecurities may resurface. And most people flee from these thoughts rather than confronting them. But the key here is this: thoughts are not enemies. They are teachers. When you sit alone, you begin to tune into the stories that are circulating in your mind. Some are empowering. I am worthy. Others are limiting. I am not good enough. I'll always be alone. The distinction between individuals who flourish and individuals who suffer is this: individuals who flourish learn to recast their thoughts. If you want to be happy alone, you must master your inner dialogue. Replace self-criticism with replace doubt with encouragement, replace fear with faith. Do the following exercise. The next time you notice a negative thought, don't resist. Instead, say, "Thank you for appearing, but I prefer a better story." Then intentionally replace it with a thought that works in your favor. With time, your mind will shift from a critic to a coach. And when your inner world becomes peaceful, solitude becomes joyful, because you're no longer trapped in a war with yourself. You're sitting with a friend. Now let's talk about turning solitude into growth. Happiness alone is not just about feeling good. It's about using your alone time to build a better. Every moment of solitude is an opportunity to reflect on your life. To ask, am I living for myself, or am I living for others? A chance to dream up new possibilities, to see in your mind's eye the life you desire, a chance to create, to write, paint, construct, design, or merely let your mind. Many of the world's most amazing art, inventions, and concepts were conceived in isolation. So don't squander your alone time. Make use of it. Write your thoughts in a journal. Make plans. Practice meditation. Acquire new skills. Produce something worthwhile. When you do this, solitude is no longer empty space. It is fertile ground where and the more you grow within solitude, the more secure you are in the world, because you no longer rely on other people for guidance. You have your own compass. Now let's be real. There will be times when aloneness feels dense. We are human. We need connection, and it is okay. Happiness without people doesn't equate to loneliness for all of eternity. It equates to finding the ability to be complete in yourself, so that when you do connect with others, you do so from strength, not need. Here is the paradox. The more at ease you are alone, the better your relationships will be. Why? Because you are no longer attempting to fill an emptiness. You are no longer insisting that someone else repair your loneliness. Instead, you encounter people as a complete person able to give, not get. And that energy transforms everything. It strengthens ties. It establishes relationships based on love, not fear. So remember, learning to be happy alone doesn't mean rejecting people. It means no longer rejecting yourself. Now let's discuss solitude as a superpower. The majority of people are terrified of being alone. They are fearful of the quiet. They are fearful of not being approved by someone else. But you are learning something that is uncommon. You are learning how to not only get through alone, but to thrive. And that, my friend, is a superpower. Because once you know how to be happy by yourself, no one can control you. If your happiness is dependent on someone else, you are always at their mercy. If they leave you, you break. If they let you down, you suffer. If they don't notice you, you feel invisible. But when you create happiness from the inside out, you reclaim your power. You are no longer needy. You no longer accept less than you deserve. You no longer pursue love out of fear, and you begin to attract love out of abundance, because happiness is attractive. People are attracted to those who don't require them, but prefer them. That is the vibe you develop when you become a solitude master. Solitude and loneliness aren't synonymous. Loneliness is the lack of connection. Solitude is the presence of self. Loneliness pronounces, "I am lacking something." Solitude declares, "I am whole, and anything else is surplus." The distinction lies in perspective. And perspective is a choice. Loneliness refines you. There are countless examples of individuals who have harnessed loneliness to their benefit. Authors go off to secluded cabins deep in the forest to write their magnum opus. Inventors sit alone to develop their idea. Spiritual leaders spend days, weeks, even years in isolation, coming back with insight that transforms the world. Why? Because once you step out of the world's chaos, you can finally hear yourself. That is when your creativity begins to thrive. That is when your ideas come into form. That is when you become the person you were destined to be. When you learn to be happy by yourself, you become unstoppable. You no longer fear breakups. You no longer fear rejection. You no longer fear silence. Because you know that even in your own presence, This does not mean you push away others. It means you no longer hold on to them because you desperately need them. You can love freely because your happiness does not rely on them. And that freedom of self allows each relationship to be healthier, deeper, and more real. The happy person by themselves is the person who can do anything in life. Why? Because they don't spend time seeking approval. They don't lose themselves out of fear of being abandoned. They don't spend their days on distractions just to keep from being quiet. Instead, they're all about growing. They create powerful habits. They cultivate their imagination. They take risks because they don't fear being alone. That is why solitude is a strength. So I want you to ask yourself, what is one thing I fear about being alone? How might I transform that fear into freedom? What is one gift that solitude offers me today that I've been neglecting? Put your answers down. Keep them handy. Come back to them when loneliness sets in. Tell yourself that loneliness isn't weakness, it is power. Loneliness and happiness have a space between them. That space isn't occupied by other humans. It is occupied by self-awareness, by intention, by love of self. When you accept solitude, you unleash an inner strength that most individuals will never discover. You no longer fear the quiet. You begin constructing a life that thrills you, satisfies you, and honors you. And from there, paradoxically, you'll draw in the right people. Not because you need them, but because you've already constructed your own happiness, and now you can share it. Remember this, being happy by yourself is not the end of your story. It is the start, and freedom, my friend, is the basis of a better, brighter, more beautiful life.